I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Office Hours live stream after 2 weeks missing. My dear sound engraver is taking a much needed nap at the moment, so she's not here to okay my audio and everything, but no one's screaming that they can't hear me, so all's good. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, and it's kind of crazy. Sound engraver's schedule has been all over the place these last couple weekends. And if you're married and your wife's schedule is all over the place, then your schedule is all over the place too. Just saw a glitch there. Just wanted to make sure I came through, because Saturday nights, that's the start of my weekend, right? Like Saturday night's my Friday night. And because I get Saturday night and Sunday night, or yeah, Saturday night and Sunday night. And last couple of weekends, we had Spring Forward too that was going on, losing an hour that night. And Saturday nights is this hallowed, sacred time for me, where I can just recoup from the week, my introversion, go into introvert mode and get my social energy back and everything. And man, it's such a desperately needed time for me to be able to function, psychologically even, throughout the week. And things kept pushing into it. And then it's like, I might need to start my stream a little later. I'm like, no, I am protecting my time, So, so unfortunately I wasn't able to stream the last couple of weeks, and I had some reviews that I wanted to do, and I'm still going to try to do them tonight. But when you're ready to do some reviews, and then you wait like 2 or 3 weeks and then come back to thinking about it, sometimes the stuff's not always as fresh in your mind. And I don't always have the time during the week, of course, to go back and this channel is a hobby. It's something fun I can do. I don't have the time to really, or nor do I make the money from it, which would give me the time to really, put in the prep work and all of that stuff. But but we're going to see what we can do. I did really enjoy these stories, so I want to talk about them, which I'll do in a moment. But let me welcome the chat here first. See, Ghost Planet Max Inc. popped in first as always. Good to see you. By the way, Ghost Planet Max Inc., I hope your mother's doing well. Still in our prayers. Hope she's doing okay. Private Eye in Retrospectiva. Eldritch Fan popping in Zolo. Yeah, I will be talking about the Mass Effect trilogy a little bit. So yeah, that's one of them that it's been so long since I played through, and I was ready to talk about that a couple of weeks ago. So ask me some questions or remind me if I miss anything as I'm talking through it. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. Ghost Planet talking about the live action Lilo and Stitch and people shilling for it, and I don't understand that. I'll get to that though. Let me welcome the people, because I don't want to launch into my content there before I get everybody welcome. Eldritch Fan was talking about you said you're reading the Millennium Falcon now, and you said well, you love people and use things, not the other way around. But what about the ship? The Millennium Falcon or things that gain such a personality, vehicles and stuff like that. And it made me laugh because Sound Engraver is having a rough time with that right now. She just had to get a new car. We got her a sweet new car because hers just died. One of the things I love about Sound Engraver is that she's not one of these women who needs the latest, newest thing and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, this phone is 2 years old. I need a new one. No, she will use something until it literally falls apart. Doesn't matter if it's a piece of clothing, or, electronics or whatever. And she's had this 2008 Ford Focus forever. And it finally just died to the point where it would cost us the amount of practically a new car to fix it. So we had to get her a new car, and she is just mourning the loss of her car. She named it and everything. So that kind of made me think of that. Zachary Brown, good to see you there. Imaginative Hobbyist, Studio Super, good to see you. Final Fantasy fan, Electric Barbarella, Gentle Savage, Stephen M, Leia Plus Size, all of our usual folk in here. Darth Enigma, great to see everyone. Big Al popping in to say hi. Good to see you there. You guys were chatting for a while there, so I'll let you guys have at it. Yeah, first of all, before we even get to some of the people and the idiots shilling for these movies, you make a great point, Studio 96 Films. Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. Those were great movies. No remake needed. We don't need a remake. I don't understand. The argument is that, well, yeah, of course Lilo and Stitch was so great, but, hey, what's wrong with just, reintroducing it to a new generation? Just, putting it out there in the theaters again for a new generation. This is how ridiculous our culture has become. When I was a child in the 80s, I grew up watching Disney movies from the 40s and 50s and 60s. I didn't need them to be reinterpreted or reimagined for me. I remember going to see Snow White in the theaters. They re-released it in the theater, and I even remember there was a glitch and the movie went down or something. We were all mad, all the kids in the theater and stuff like that. They didn't need to reinvent or reinterpret these Disney movies for new generations. So stop with that stupid, tired argument. This is not about reintroducing these classics to a new generation. No, this is about Disney trying to chase the almighty penny there and get a chance to retell these classic stories with all of their newfound license to pump it full of their agenda. Understand that. The same company that's putting out this Lilo and Stitch is the same company trying to push the Rachel Zegler Snow White upon you. So when you look at these channels and they're against the wokeness guys and we're fighting the good fight and they're, ripping on Rachel Zegler and the Snow White, but actually those Lilo and Stitch looks pretty good. More and more people are seeing through the lies of these channels. More and more people are seeing through it, which I love. I'm very glad for that to happen. Not enough. They're still raking in money hand over fist from you, the viewers who continue to watch those channels. But there's no, the argument, oh, well, we have to reward them for what good they do, and then call out the bad that they do, and that's how we get change, and that's how we're making progress. These channels, this YouTube phenomena, the anti-woke YouTube phenomena, which I agree with ideologically. I don't like ideologies in my stories. I'm very much against woke ideologues, and I don't want them trying to write stories, not because of my political opposition to woke ideology, but because I don't like ideology in my stories. I'm just as opposed to the Christian right putting out their Left Behind movies and all. They got a right to put out whatever they want to, but I'm not going to support it. I think that's crap storytelling. It's an ideology. It's starting a story with an ideology that you want to get across. It's not starting a story with, I want to tell a good story. And if you tell a good story as a writer, organically, if you're really treating the story and giving the story the respect it deserves, then organically, many of your philosophies and viewpoints and whatnot are going to come across. Sure. But that happens organically. It doesn't happen with you looking for ways to preach and finding little soapbox moments for your characters and so forth. And then in Hollywood, all of the other little activists and what do they call the liaisons from different communities and different causes, make sure you put something about transgenderism in that game. Yeah, but it's a game that doesn't really have even remote. Find a way, get a character in there who could say something about that. It's just, that's crap. That hurts stories, that kills stories. So I'm for that. But these channels don't really want that to stop. That's why they have to every now and then support something that Disney does. The whole we support what good they do and then we call out the bad that they do, that only works if you're dealing with a logical, reasonable human being or entity, right? Disney is not a logical entity. Disney has been taken over by an ideology. And when someone is taken over by an ideology, it doesn't matter whether it's an individual or a corporation or whatever, they're not thinking clearly. Everything they do is in service to the ideology. Whether that's a right-leaning or left-leaning ideology, everything they do is in service to the ideology. They don't think rationally. As we've seen, Disney really doesn't care about profits all that much. I mean, it's getting down to the bare bones where it's like starting to kind of matter to them a little bit because they've just thrown away so much money, but they will throw away tons of money if it means they can get a message out. That's what's important to them, serving the ideology. So you're not dealing with a rational company that wants to conduct business like rational people. You're dealing with ideologues, and they will very happily throw you a bone. They will very happily throw you a Mandalorian series if it shuts you up and makes you come back for all of the other crap. Their acolyte and their nonsense, garbage that they're going to try and shove down your throat. And people don't understand that. And then there was the whole false narrative of a civil war at Lucasfilm and the ways they kept you hanging on and the ways that these channels perpetrated this idea so that you could keep running back to their channel to get the reviews of every single episode and every single thing and get the news and this is Kathleen Kennedy kind of farted this morning and it sounded like this and that's news, oh my gosh, she sneezed, here's some news about it, They want you to come back to them for that, come back to them so you can hear what their sources are saying so that they can get your money. That's all they're looking for is your clicks and your super chats and so forth. And those channels have to like some stuff that Disney does because if they just called out the crap, then eventually they get to the point that I've gotten to, which is just walk away from it. Stop. I could care less that Lilo and Stitch is having a live action remake out. I'm not going to review it. I'm not going to say anything more than what you've asked me here, and you got me on this little thing here, not saying about it, but I'm not covering this crap because I've walked away from Hollywood and Disney, and you can't just come back when it looks like, maybe they put a fresh coat of paint on themselves, guys. Now maybe it's time to come back. No, it's not. As I said before, an ideologue is more than willing to go underground or make something a little more subtle. This is my thing with the Superman movie. You're dealing with James Gunn, who is a 100% ideologue. He hasn't had to put it in his films recently or before this, but you're also dealing with a James Gunn who's a rabid anti-Trumper. That we see that from his old tweets and whatnot. And he's telling a story now about the American spirit and the American people, and we're really, we're down and we're down for the count and we're bloodied and we're beaten up, but America wants to be good, and rest assured you are going to get, he's probably toned it down a little bit in the reshoots because he realized what a blowback he's going to get, but I guarantee you that kind of stuff, you're going to see that in even the Superman movies from Warner Brothers. So it's not just Disney, it's a lot of these companies. I even saw, I think it was Critical Drinker. Somebody said something in the chat there about the new Daredevil series that was getting like really low views, which I'm glad. I dearly love the Netflix Daredevil series. That was so good. It had some problem, it wasn't a perfect thing, but it was really, really solid. And when Disney Plus was going to do it, I thought this is ridiculous. They've already ruined the whole continuity of it with their bringing Kingpin back in their other garbage series. They've already screwed that up. So they're going to have, bring it back and people are going to flock to it and love it and all of this kind of stuff. And I think it was Critical Drinker. Maybe I'm wrong, but a channel of video popped up as a recommended in my YouTube stream. And it was like, this actually looks pretty good. This actually looks pretty good. Now, I don't know what he's said, if he's seen it or whatever. I don't care because I don't follow those channels. But that's the kind of thing. We have to kind of keep hanging on a little bit. We have to keep invested in everything that they're giving us so that we keep you coming back to our commentaries over it, and my channel's not about that. Yeah, I'm against ideology of any slant being pushed in storytelling, but what I do instead of that is I say let's look at what else we can do. Then I review stories from authors who I don't have a freaking clue what their political ties are. They might be rabidly against me politically in every way, and that's okay because they told a story that's actually just a good organic story, and I applaud it. I dearly love it, you know. And so I go back and look at retro comics, retro movies, books, and whatnot, or new stories that are being told today that are just really good stories that are worthy of people checking out if you just want a good tale. So that's what I'm about. I'll talk more about that in a second. But let me get to some super chats here that I don't want to miss. Studio Super said if we don't oh no, you had this earlier one, Studio Super. I think you were talking about Sound Engraver. Here we go. You said Sound Engraver. Sounds like me. They don't call me a penny pincher for nothing. Yeah, but she's not even. See, the thing is, I mean, she's. Occasionally I'll see the screen freeze, and I know that sometimes that means the audio gets glitchy, so I want to make sure I give you my full thought and it doesn't end up getting cut off. She's very responsible with money. She's way more of a frugal, responsible spender than I am, but she'll buy things, you know, for her music and everything like that, very expensive software, you know, instruments and whatnot, you know, so she's not above spending money, but I just love it. She's like, what's the point? Why would I need to go buy the phone that also serves as a toothbrush, you know, or whatever? So I got lucky. Michael Scimbati, good to see you there. Said, Prof, could you read my comment about The Dark Knight Returns? Oh, I think I might just see it here. You got lucky, Michael Scimbati. I just found it. Okay. Can't see which who's the curious. Was curious. Could you give a brief but detailed explanation of why you loathe Dark Knight Returns and the grittier street level Batman? Well, I wouldn't say I loathe Dark Knight Returns. Okay, Dark Knight Returns is a very fine, interesting, and I would even say well-written Elseworlds Batman story. What I loathe, I don't like Frank Miller as an artist, so I find it hard to look at. That's just me. That's my taste. I don't like his art style. Other people love it. Good for them. What I loathe about The Dark Knight Returns is how the DC Comics norm became, let's make all of our stuff like The Dark Knight Returns. And it was popular because it was a darker take, but it was always meant to be an Elseworlds. This was not main continuity Batman. And they just, you know, more and more got to the point where they just wanted to remake all of their characters like that. And it really kind of culminated in the New 52 garbage remake that they did of the DC Comics in 2011. Let's remake the whole DC universe in the image of dark, gritty, you know, morbid, not aspirational hero Batman, you know, and I hate that. I loathe that. You say, what do I have against a dark street level Batman? Batman can be dark. I've been doing a reviews of the original Legends of the Dark Knight line. And as I said in one of my recent reviews, that brings Batman up to just about as dark as you can make him without crossing the line. And it's not so much about making him dark, it's about making the universe that he inhabits dark. That's great because Batman's there to shine a light in that darkness. If you're looking for an angry, demented thug who's out there beating up criminals and just getting his revenge and he's angry and blah, blah, you're not looking for Batman. Stop trying to tell me you're a Batman fan. You're not. You're a Punisher fan. That's what you want. Batman, you know, so it depends on what you mean by street level grittiness or dark or whatever. Sure, you can have some of those elements in it, but Batman, if you lose sight of Batman being the light shining in the darkness, then you've completely lost the character of Batman. Now that light, because he's fighting, as I've said before, in a corrupt city, Gotham City with corrupt police officers quite often and so forth, he has to take on the image of darkness. That's why he dresses as a bat, and he's technically a vigilante in that city because the law itself is so corrupt. But he is still the justice. He is still the shining light. It's just he has to wear that face of darkness because he fights in a very different world. Gotham City is a completely different platform than Metropolis. Superman and Batman are far more alike than most people realize or want to give them the credit for. It's their two different cities that they're fighting in that makes them so different or appear so different, if that makes sense. Anyway, but thank you for the super chat and thank you for the question. It's a good one. Studio Super says, if we don't remake them, how will the next generation know about these? They have this thing, it's called a DVD player. Exactly. I mean, you know, we had the VHS player and I mean, the Disney classics, you know, I mean, my daughter, Cinderella is still her favorite Disney princess ever. And it's not because I let her watch any garbage, live action remake. But children don't need a new version of the film to be reintroduced to this. Now, kids today maybe are getting to that point because they've lost any and all attention span. And honestly, I don't really see children today. I mean, my nieces, God bless them, I love them. They'll go to see one of these movies. They'll probably go see Lilo and Stitch. They won't remember anything that happens. It'll just, they'll be checking their phones halfway through the film anyway, or so forth. So, yeah, I don't know. Different world, but we don't need to reintroduce these films. If they're a classic, they're there for a reason. Definitely agree. Inzolo, thank you for the super chat. That I call current Disney Bob Iger pictures. Yeah, and it's you always hear people say how Bob Iger is terribly concerned about his legacy because apparently he's stepping down. Is it 220? Is it this year, 2025, or is it 2026? I forget when he's apparently stepping down. There's no hope for that man's legacy, and even just in terms of the numbers. I mean, but if people flock to stuff like Lilo and Stitch and shill for that kind of crap, then you're giving the man a legacy who's come out and it doesn't matter what little office memo went out from Disney. Hey guys, they're turning away from the DEI stuff. No, the cancer is deeply rooted in that system. And I've said it before, they're kind of like Hydra growing inside a shield. That they've been doing that ever since, really before the year 2000, but you can really kind of markedly see it, especially, around mid 2000s or whatever, the films, occasionally they'll try and pump a little bit more brazen and get a little more brazen with preaching rather than storytelling until it just hit full swing, in the late 2000 teens, and it just totally took over. And they're not above it all. They'll kick and scream about it a little bit, but they're not above it all just going back undercover for a little bit until you stop opposing them so much. And then they'll keep at it. Studio Super, again, thank you so much, said there's no going back for a lot of us. We've replaced them with indies, anime, etc. And once they've been replaced, there's no going back, even if they get their crap together. You're right. Now, and that is true for you say, and I believe you, and it's true for me, and it's true for a lot of us. It's not true for enough people, though. There are far too many people who are just desperate for new content, need to be part of a conversation on social media that's being had about this new thing, and even if they hate it, they still need to be checking all the channels for what they say about it. I get people, I laugh because I'll get, if I say something or if I put out a video occasionally, my conversation just happened to go towards, let's say, the Rachel Zegler Snow White thing or something like that. So I'll cut it out as a video. I'll get a little bump in subscribers because there's a lot of people from those, let's say the Friday Night Tight crowd or whatever, who then they happen to see somebody else's video talking about this, like, yeah, you're one of us. Okay, we'll sub to you. And then the second I call out the nonsense of just, the grifting of the anti-woke or whatever, oh, this is crap. And then, the subscribers will go back down if I say something else or whatever. So I just don't pay attention to any of it. The only way I knew about, I didn't even know the Daredevil thing was out yet because I don't care. Why would I watch it? If something new presents itself to me, I have to look into it first. For example, I've been watching X-Files, going through episode by episode along with Millennium and the walkthrough and everything I've been doing of everything, and I've been watching X-Files on Hulu because I think that's the only place they're streaming right now, and I really don't want to have to go buy 10 whole seasons or whatever. So I've just been streaming it there, and I keep seeing pop up in the feed a new Hellboy, The Crooked Man. It's a movie, I guess, or something. I don't know. I was asking Al and Chris, Fanman, if they knew about a little bit about it, but I'll have to look more into it to see who made it and whatnot. But if that's something that looks like it might be worth a chance, I'll give it a chance. If I see who made it and stuff like that. So it's not I'm not a 100% opposed to trying out anything new, but if it's somebody that's from a somebody who's tried and true ideologue and not going to give you good stories, but wants to talk down to you, wants to hate upon you if you dare, see the world in any way differently than they do or something, I'm just not interested in giving that a chance. No, pass. Hard pass. Darth Enigma, wow, $20. Thank you so much. Yay, first super chat. All right, well, good for you. I'm honored that you decided to use my channel for your first super chat, Darth Enigma, or is it your first super chat to me? Either way, I'll take it. Appreciate it. Said, so if Superman represents the sun, would you say Batman is the moon reflecting the sun's light? That's a really great picture. That's a good way of picturing it, because in some of the best stories, Batman is inspired by Superman. He knows he can't be Superman, not in the world that he grew up in and inhabited and is still operating in Gotham City. But he definitely knows that he's fighting for the same thing. You know, I did a whole analysis of that great Steve Rude painting that was used on The World's Finest, and it's Superman, you know, standing on the Metropolis building with the sun behind him and the doves, you know, around him and everything. And in the same shot, it's like a fade over to Batman in the nighttime, hunched over a gargoyle, and there are bats flying around. But it's the same. It's the same. They're both arbiters of light. Whereas Superman has the sun shining behind him, Batman has the bat signal shining behind him. And so I think that's a good way of putting it. Like you said, you know, the sun reflecting off the moon. You know, it's I think that's an interesting way of putting it. I mean, like all metaphors, I don't think it. You know, I guess at one point it will crumble down. But it's an interesting picture there. I like that. Oh, there's my sound engraver. She is awake. Good. She missed all the stuff we said about her at the beginning of the stream. Nothing but good stuff, though, my love. Nothing but good stuff. Studio Super said, as for the attention span of the current generation thing, that's why I'm deciding to make motion comics along with my regular comics, basically trying to adapt as best I can. Yeah, if you want readers, it's partially one of the reasons why I write tales, very short, to be read in one sitting. Now, part of that, too, is I'm such an Edgar Allan Poe fan, and Poe believed in the unity of effect, and that a piece of fiction should be written of a length in which somebody could read in one sitting. Now, that was, people in his day could sit down and pay attention to something a lot longer than they can today. Part of it's, you know, the demands of daily lifestyles and stuff, too. But obviously, to be read in one sitting today is a lot shorter than what it was in Poe's day, so I've had to make my tales a lot shorter. But yeah, that's why one of the reasons there, you know, you're more likely to get people to click on it if they know that they're not getting in because the average reader is not going to read a book. What's a novel? Oh my gosh, gross. You know, they're used to TikTok, scroll, scroll, you know. So, Michael Skimbody doing it again, brother. Read my comment or answer my question about Broken City. I don't see it right now. I'm sorry. I don't think I've read Broken City, to be honest with you. I have to go find it. I see you talking about that. Yeah. I have not read Broken City. No, I'll try to read it though. It's there's a lot of Batman stuff I haven't read yet, you know. But I definitely want to get through all these things. And I'm going through. Reading wise, I've been reading a couple novels. I've been getting back into the Star Wars EU too, which I dearly love. So I'll get to that in a second. But first, let me talk about Mass Effect a little bit, because you guys were wanting me to talk, and I said I'd talk about the whole trilogy once I finished playing it. I did finish it, and I said a few thoughts about it at the last stream I did 2-3 weeks ago. At the end there, I really did. I love the trilogy. It does go down as some of my favorite games I've played. I don't think the third one is a crap game like some people said. I thought the third one had so many great things in it. Now, when you want to get to some of the criticisms of the third one, it's to the end of it. Okay, the end of it, I think they give you 3 possible endings. And, you know, these are like big time endings at the end of the game, because, of course, you've got possible storylines that you could affect all through the trilogy, depending on choices you make with different characters. And you get to decide in a lot of ways who lives and who dies, you know, among your teams and stuff. And so you decide a lot of things about the story as you go along. But overall, in the end of the climax at the third game, they give you 3 possible endings. I think the one, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, because I know some people might want to go play the games, and that's great. The one I chose, I thought about it a lot. The one I chose is the one where he has to sacrifice himself. And I do say he, because I just don't see Shepard working as a woman. If you played Shepard as a woman, that's great. Good for you. Glad you experienced that. I just didn't see it with all of the relationships and all of the storylines. I didn't see a woman filling that role. But that's just me. So I chose the sacrificial ending because I felt like that best spoke to the themes of the trilogy, which were about learning to work together, especially with other synthetic beings. You know, you've got the whole Geth human reconciliation. There's the character of Edie and whatnot, and I couldn't see taking all of that out is the other option, which a lot of people like. A lot of people like that, and that is the only ending where I think Shepard survives somehow, some which way in the end. So I chose that ending, but I do think there should have been another ending. One of the kind of premises of the story and the whole trilogy itself, too, has also been that no matter how overwhelming the odds are, no matter how horrible the challenge that you're being faced with, you can remain true to yourself, and you can. There is a right way. It was a very aspirational, as dark as Mass Effect got. It was a very aspirational hero story if you played it as a Paragon. You know, you could play a Renegade if you wanted to, but playing as a Paragon, there was always a way to make it through. It wasn't an easy way, and sometimes, depending on the choices you made, you know, there are little sacrifices here and there. And I don't hate the self-sacrifice ending. I get it, but I don't think it was 100% earned. I think it's the best ending that they gave you. It fits the best with the story's themes, but even then, I don't think it was 100% what it could have been. So if I was writing the game, I would have given another ending some which way in which it could have been, or if you want to keep that ending, develop it out a little bit more. It just kind of sped up a little bit too much at the end there to have that ending. And I'm just speaking from a writer's perspective. That's the main thing I go into video games for, is for a story. But hey, if you like good engaging stories, you know, this is classic BioWare. You know, it's so many years after Knights of the Old Republic, but Knights of the Old Republic is one of the greatest games ever made. And I love that style. I love that BioWare style of, you know, you're this character, the choices you make matter to the story. You know, I love that. That's great. Those are the kind of games that I like playing. You know, Witcher, you know, those kind of games and whatnot. And Mass Effect is classic in that. And especially if you know, now so many years after the fact, if you can get like the Legendary Edition that I did, you don't have to go and answer the questions at the beginning of each game. You can just transfer your save game over, and it actually keeps your progress and the choices you've made and so forth. And it's a very immersive world. It's storytelling at its best. I'll never understand people who just like to blanketly write off video games, like Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh just annoys me. I can't stand the man. I really can't stand the man, quite honestly. And it has nothing to do with his politics. It has to do with his priggish arrogance and the way he will just try to talk down or belittle anybody who dares read a manga or play a video game. You know, I mean, it's like, dude, grow a soul. You know, you don't have to like this stuff, but my goodness. Anyway, a little tangent there. But yes, like anything, you know, video games. You know, I'm a Catholic, and I listen to a lot of Catholic media. And it makes me scratch my head and roll my eyes too when you get to some of these channels out there. There's a great apostolate called Theology of the Body Institute, started by this guy named Christopher West, and it's great. It's really great. The theology of the body. It's a wonderful teaching that the Catholic Church has, which a lot of Protestants wouldn't even disagree with if they took the time to listen to a lot of it and stuff. And, you know, depending on their flavor of Protestantism and whatnot. But so it's, you know, then they started a YouTube channel, and they started hiring people to work with him and make videos. And soon enough, because it's YouTube, you can't, even if you come into it with the best of the intentions, if you're trying to get clicks and if you're trying to make a little money from it, you start to kind of sell your soul a bit. And then they're doing these videos where, guys, women's bathing suits are a great evil in our nation, you know? And then it's like, video games, guys, video games and pornography, they're really just killing our young men. You just lump video games with pornography? And these are Catholics too. I'm like, well, where's your video about alcoholism? Oh, we don't say that because we're Catholic. You know, it's like, shut up. Video games are nothing more. They can be used poorly or positively. You can use them in a disordinate fashion, just like alcohol, and they can horribly ruin your life and negatively affect you in various different levels. Or you can approach them positively and not give yourself over to a disordered attachment to them. And video games are capable of really letting us experience story in a way that you don't get just from reading a page. You know, I love story in all different mediums. I love a good novel, just opening a novel and reading it. I love a comic book. A comic book takes it to a whole new level. The words and pictures work in a different conjunction, and they do certain things to your brain that's been scientifically proven. You experience the story in a different way. Likewise, video games, they can invest you in a main character in ways that you never thought of before, because you're almost living it with them virtually. And yeah, you can take that into a dark place and neglect your life and all that kind of stuff, but you don't have to. It's a great form, and playing the Mass Effect games was an example of that. I thought I loved the step up from part two. From part one to part two, that step up to in the different story, working for Cerberus. That was a really cool idea. Really tested the character, the moral fiber of Shepard. I love that. And in going into 3, I like the setup of that as well. I didn't think it jumped the gun or took a bad turn there. It was just by the end, I think things got a little wonky, which is common, in long form storytelling that gets into trilogies and stuff like that. It doesn't make me hate the trilogy though, or the game at all. Definitely. Let's see here. Studio Super said, I hardly ever read stuff nowadays because majority, if not all, my free time is spent drawing stuff. I can put down the pencil. I don't have a problem. I can do it whenever I wanted to. I just don't want to. Yeah, creating is a great way. But of course, if you're a Sound Engraver, yeah. One of these days she's gonna watch me do a playthrough of the Mass Effect, because I told her how amazing it is. So she said she's keeping silent so I can do spoilers. But I'm actually avoiding spoilers, not just for you, but for other people, because I've talked about video games before, and people went and played them on my recommendation, like the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Still just wowed by that. That game had no business being that good, coming out the time that it did, and whatnot. It was great. Anyway, yeah, audiobooks, another medium. I love a good audiobook. I love to read. I need to have a book in front of me, a tactile book that I can. Either the books I'm going to talk about tonight here in a second. I love to have a tactile book in front of me that I can read, and I think you experience the story in a certain way through that. But with my schedule too, I don't always have the time to sit there and read. So audiobooks are a great way to still get some books in, and through my daily, and that's a different experience of the story too. It doesn't change the story, but you're hearing the story through an audible performance. That's why I don't like. I was telling Sound Engraver the other day. I don't like it when people speed up the reader. I was like, no, he's giving a performance, or she's giving a performance. Let's listen to the speed they give it, and hear that. If you're going to hear a reading, you wouldn't go to a live reading and say, "Can you talk a little faster?" You don't do that. Hear the performance. Hear the way they're going to interpret these characters in this narration. All right. Yeah, I see a number of people talking about Monster Hunter, because I think didn't they do a streaming version or something, or a live something or another? It popped up an advertisement when I was watching X-Files the other day. I don't know anything about it. I never read the books or anything, but you guys say it's good. Inspired by old B-movies, company contracts to kill monsters for a living. I mean, that's kind of stuff sounds up my alley. I'd be up to checking into that a little bit. Studio Super says Matt washes the grandpa with grandpa opinions. If he had his way, we'd look at the wall in our spare time and be entertained by never-ending boredom. I know, dude, smile, crack a grin every now and then, just for fun. You're not fishing or killing animals, and get out of here. Aren't you wearing a flannel? Just whatever. Anyway, where was it? Okay, so yeah, so Mass Effect. I think that's, we could talk ad nauseum about individual characters and so. I think the characterization was really good. Now, in terms of the romance for Shepard, that's a thing where you think, okay, well, some different decisions could have been made there, right? I mean, in the first game, it's really trying to suggest that Shepard belongs with Liara T'Soni. And I felt like that was where the story of that first game was really pushing those two together. First, it seems like maybe Ashley Williams, but by the end, So I like to follow, if the story gives your character a decision of who to romance or whatnot, like Witcher did and so forth. I like to follow whatever is best for the story. So I let him, be with Liara T'Soni there. By the second game, though, in some ways it's kind of Liara makes it a little harder to stay with her in some ways, but you can see past that. Okay, it's because of what she's been through and losing him the first time and so forth. But they really try and open it up so that you can also have a good story experience if you wanted to put the character with Miranda or somebody, or even shoot, I can't remember her character's name. It's been a little while since I played the game. The oh, it's bugging me that I can't. Tali. That's okay. All right, I remember the name. You can even romance Tali at some point, which is interesting apparently. So, but I kept it with Liara throughout the whole game, and I was satisfied with that culmination there. But it's a replayable game. When you play with different decisions for different things, you can play it and make some different decisions to see that outcome as well. So yeah, I like that. I have no real deal-breaking complaints with the Mass Effect trilogy. I'm definitely going to replay it at some point. Yeah, I would have done it a little bit differently in the end if I had my way about it, or if I was consulted, but I wasn't. So it's still good though. All right. Let me move on to the next one here. Now, I should say this before I get to my book reviews. I say book review because that's what I'm talking about, my experience with the book. But sometimes people will come to my channel who haven't, just they're new to my channel, and they'll hear me say a book review of this or that. And rightly so. I imagine they're like, dude, do you ever say anything bad about a book? But I should really clarify, I'm not a booktuber. Okay, I don't, when I do book reviews, it's not about, let me take this new piece of fiction and all right, I'm going to tell you all the good in it, and I'm going to tell you the bad in it, and this, and that. What I do with my channel is, because I, told you just a little while ago how I don't like to play the game of like calling out all the crap that Hollywood does, yet still clinging to every little new thing it gives us to see, and here's my review of it, I like to just walk away from that crap and to try and give people, bring stories to people's attention, whether old retro stories that they might have missed, or movies or whatever, or books that are being, that maybe flew under their radar, or new books too, or whatever, and bring those to people's attention. So if I read a new book that I don't really like, I'm not really going to do a review of it. I'll talk about it. Like I talked about some of Dan Simmons' work that I was reading last Halloween, or Halloween before that. And I was like, man, because I read Children of Summer or something like that. Forgot the name of it, which was okay. It was good. So I started trying to read the rest of the trilogy, and it just sucked. I just couldn't even get through the second book. It's like, dude. So I mean, I'll say stuff about that, but I'm not going to give it a proper review because it's just not worth my time. I'd rather do a proper review about stuff that I think you guys might really be interested in. And first up, I'm going to talk about The Ship. Doug Brody's The Ship. Now, Doug Brody is the one who did Shelley. And I talked about Shelley, and I gave it a glowing review because I dearly loved it. He is going to, actually, let me pull it up here because I should have had this ready. Apparently in StreamYard now, you're able to share image files, which is new. You weren't able to do that before. You had to have it as a browser window or something like that. But apparently, we're going to test it here and see if you can do image file. Apparently you can. Cool. There's the, Doug Brody has just released the cover for the second book in the Shelley. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy in the end or a series of longer. That'd be great. But Shelley was the story of the synthetic, the android. Basically, they call them synths, but they were. She's the one. It's in a future in which synthetics are a thing. There's everything from sex bots to house cleaning bots to nanny bots for your children, or all kind of bots. And she worked for the government, and her job was to go after when an android goes rogue, if a synthetic ever starts to kill a human or breaks the law or whatever in such way, and it ended in a really cool way. I did a whole talk about it, and yeah, he's doing part 2 is coming out this summer. I'm going to try to have him on the channel to talk about that, maybe around, I forget what he said, July-ish or something like that. But there's the cover for part 2. But you can go ahead and get, first of all, the first one's just called Shelley. You can find that now. I should have put a link to it in the description below, but I'll do that when I cut this out as a video. But he was kind enough to send me his the other 3 books he did, which is a trilogy called The Ship Trilogy. And I picked it up. I forgot to I looked at, me with numbers. Like I said, I have dyscalculia, so I don't remember numbers at all very well. And I looked at when this was published, but then I promptly forgot it because it's a number. So I'm trying to find that again. This was published 2021. Okay. Is that right? Yeah. So anyway, but I think he'd written it a while before. But Doug Brody is a big X-Files fan. He's a big fan of a lot of the stories, the type of work we talk about on this channel. And as I said with Shelley, you're finding a writer here who just loves the story that he's telling, loves the artist storytelling, and just loves the story he's telling. So you're just going to get somebody really trying to tell the best story they can. And Shelley really was. It just, man, A+. There's a great Audible version of it too. Read very well, that if you want to go check out that instead of, if you're not a person that can handle sitting there reading a book or don't have the time or whatever. But so I wanted to read these other books. Now, he had warned me. He sent me these, and he said, hey, I'm just, appreciate your reviews. I'm sending you these. And he said, he didn't send me to these for me to review. I'm just being honest that he sent them to me. But he didn't send these to me for me to review. But I was like, dude, if you send me your books, I'm going to review them. If it's something, if you're an author that I like your work, and I'm going to read it. And I did read it, so I want to review it. But he warned me, he said, now these books, just to, they're not going to be like on the level that Shelley is. He said, these are my books when I was first learning how to write novels, going from screenplays to novels, because he'd worked in television. I think he was a storyboard artist too. He'd worked on some really kind of cool stuff if you look up his name on IMDb. But he'd written a lot of story treatments and scripts and whatnot as well. And he said that these three books, this Ship trilogy, was kind of his way of learning to write, go to novel writing from screenplay writing. So when he said that, I was a little nervous to read them at first. Honestly, I was thinking, uh-oh, does that mean I'm getting I was ready for self-publisher's first venture kind of novel, which can be ugly, That's not what this was at all. I really enjoyed it. What I think he was talking about is the novel itself, and I've only read the first one here, but this, so a little blip in the channel there, so I wanted to get this out. This novel reads like a miniseries. I would be shocked one day if Netflix or one of the streaming services didn't pick up the rights to this to do it as a miniseries, because the story reads like a miniseries, as opposed to something like Shelley, which is more of a inline, ordered kind of story where we stick with certain character perspectives and kind of, stick through it. But that's not a bad thing at all. There are plenty of great novels out there that have this sort of mini-series epic-like feel to it. And what I mean by that is you have sort of an omniscient narrator. You are in characters' perspectives, but you jump around to a lot of different characters' perspectives. You go to different scenes and whatnot, but it's all unified by the event of this ship and the ship's appearance. So it's not randomized. It's not like, think about a good mini-series that you watch on some streaming service that's really, it just hooks you and you keep coming back because you want to find out what's going on, but it's going to give you a bunch of different sort of plot lines, and each plot line is only advanced a certain amount at a time because it has to take time to jump you to the other plot lines as well, so you get the whole story as it's being told and it comes out all good in the end. That's a legitimate way of storytelling, and it's the miniseries type way of storytelling. You see it a lot on television, so I think that's what he meant when he said he was kind of learning how to write a novel as opposed to miniseries. But I don't see that as a problem at all. I don't think that's a weakness for this novel at all. It's a great novel. Now, I mean, any reader, I know myself, I wouldn't want to read miniseries. I wouldn't want to read novels that feel like a miniseries over and over and over again. Nothing but those kind of novels. Obviously, if I had to only pick one, I'd pick the more uniform novel plotline. But that doesn't mean that these aren't great, novels like this. I mean, Stephen King's written some great miniseries-like novels. I think Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned was probably the first one I ever read that felt like it was a practical miniseries. It was just, giving you all these kind of different perspectives and so forth. But the gist behind this is it looks science fiction, right? And it is. We're dealing with the aliens and the ship and all of that, but it's also very horror. And it felt very much like an 80s Stephen King, like at his best type horror too. That's one of the vibes I got from it. It was really interesting and fascinating. It's I don't want to give away, because you need to go into the book to really experience the book and enjoy it. You need to go into it thinking you're just dealing with a spaceship. There's some sort of an abduction, thing going on. That's what you need to deal with when you're going in. I'll just say it's so much more than that. So much more is going on than you think is going on. And not in a way that feels contrived or like, dude, how can you even make all these dots connect? No, it actually does connect. And you discover a little bit more to the story, as you go through. The characters are engaging. you get this one main character, the woman who's abducted, who's I imagine, well, I don't want to give anything away, but it's cool. I'm looking forward to reading the second one. I'm folding in a lot of Star Wars EU stuff right now, which I'll talk about in a second. So I don't know when I'll get to the second one, but I'm going to read the second one because apparently the second book, The Ship's Revenge, takes place in the 50s. And I am a sucker for that old sort of atomic punk era, the Roswell and the kind of 50s and 60s. That's one of the reasons I love the first, the original series of Star Trek and stuff. Twilight Zone, just that old, I love that kind of classic sci-fi atomic age feel. And apparently the second book takes place in that era, so I'm excited about that. But I'd recommend these. I'll put the link again, especially when I cut this out as its own video. And I think these are on Audible too. So I'll try and find a link to the Audible ones as well. These were good, and he wrote this whole trilogy before he wrote Shelley. Shelley was amazing. I've already done the stream of that, and he's doing the sequel to Shelley. I don't know if he's going to come back to this universe. I haven't read the second and third book yet, so it might just end in a way in which you can't come back to it. But my sense, though, just from hearing him talk about it, is that this is a closed-out trilogy. He's moving on from this. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But it's a whole trilogy of books. So, if you're looking for something to kind of a long-term read, check out The Ship by Doug Brody. It's good. And it's one of those books that you just kind of have to settle in for. It's not a quick little summer beach read. You have to settle into it and let it really take you on a ride for a while. And those kind of books are fun to just live in for a while. Those sort of long, engaged books, engaging and twisting and turning books that you really have to kind of read and think about and go back to, those are fun just to kind of live in that world for a while and let it take you on the ride. So recommend The Ship by Brody. Let me make sure I haven't missed any super chats. Might have to do some of that. I think I can probably squeeze this review in here at the end. All right, good. So the only other super chat I got there was Eldritch Fan, which is a great segue. Please do a small multi-vid book study of Mindor. That's the next one I'm going to talk about. It's Luke Skywalker in the Shadows of Mindor, Star Wars. This book, I don't say this lightly. I told Sound Engraver, I'm still thinking it through. This book goes into my top 5. I said my favorite books in the world, like my favorite books ever written, in no particular order, but Christmas Carol, Dracula, and Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. I think this book has to go into to make it a top 4. Now, I'm not yet prepared to say that this book is is so incredibly artistically and the best written ever, just like that top 3 or whatever. I'm not quite ready to say that. I need to think about it. But one of the reasons this book becomes my favorite is because it's Luke Skywalker at his aspirational best. This is everything you want from an aspirational hero Luke Skywalker story. It did not disappoint me on any level in that respect. Story-wise, it takes place at the end of Luke Skywalker's original commission into the military. So, by the time you read the Thrawn trilogy, he's already resigned his commission as a general. So this is, takes place, I think this is after the courtship of Princess Leia. No, it's before the courtship of Princess Leia. Yeah, it's before the courtship of Princess Leia. It's after Truce at Bakura. Right around there in that sort of little spot of the EU. And it's his last mission before he resigns his commission as general. I don't want to give things away. Well, I will say this, okay? It's by Matt Stover, who also wrote the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, which I'm reading right now, and I'm really blown away by that. So many people told me that takes the movie to a whole new level and really explains things all the more, and they're right. But Matthew, before I read that, the last Matthew Stover Star Wars book I'd read was Shatterpoint, Mace Windu's Shatterpoint. And in a lot of ways, this is a sequel to Shatterpoint, even though you're dealing with that was Clone War prequel era, and now here we're in post original trilogy era. Some of the same characters pop up, at least 3 of them that I know, thinking of right off the top of my head. And it's not a sequel in the way that obviously Mace Windu isn't around or anything like that. He died, as we all know, in Revenge of the Sith. But it's a sequel in the sense some of the characters show up again, and the themes. It's a thematic sequel. And in Shatterpoint, we were dealing with Mace Windu really kind of facing the darkness within himself and being challenged. Going against Car Vaster on the the Koran, jungle there, and having to really struggle and overcome the darkness while not falling to it, and it was a great story. It's a wonderful story. If you haven't read Shatterpoint, I highly recommend it. Here we get Luke doing the same, but in a way that only Luke can, because Luke is obviously a vastly different character than Mace Windu. And Luke just pulls it off and succeeds. And I could maybe see some people having a problem. There's a little envelope narrative. You start at a place after the events of the story in which Luke is asking somebody to go investigate some things that happen. And then after you get the whole story, you come back to that little moment of that investigator talking about it. I could see some people having a problem with that portion of it. I don't, though, because I think that's very in keeping with Luke's character, and I like what's being said about him. This really draws to the forefront in the universe too, that holodramas are being told of these characters. So after the Battle of Endor, I mean, yeah, holodramas are being made, of Luke Skywalker and this and that, and the death of the Emperor and so forth. And it shows how Luke Skywalker, the real human being, who doesn't want to be anybody's god, emperor, or anything like that, or try to, be their savior-like figure, in a disordinate way, but he does want to serve them and bring the light as much as he can. So him dealing with that sort of reputation that sometimes he gets from the holodramas. There's so many great quotes that I just want to read. This has got the whole crew to us with us too. I mean, it's Han, Chewie, Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2, Lando Calrissian, Wedge Antilles. I mean, this has the whole crew that you love from the Star Wars, original trilogy. It felt like in that respect, it was like reading the Thrawn trilogy or something. Yeah, these are all your old favorite characters that you love coming back. I don't want to give things away, but I want to say more specifics, but I don't want to give things away because I really want you to read the book. I think you'll love it. The villain, the Black Hole was the villain's. It was one of the Emperor's hands. He has this really interesting take on the dark side. He doesn't even believe in the dark side, light side of the Force the way a Sith or Jedi would talk about it. He believes in the darkness, period. He believes that there's nothing but darkness. The darkness is all there is. And it's a very nihilistic villain. He believes that to destroy is the only thing. If you start trying to create anything, the darkness will come get you, and the only thing you can do is destroy and bring destruction. And he thinks that his own any challenges are obstacles or failures that he has in his own mission, he thinks, it's because I tried to create too much. I should have just been destroying. And that's just absolute utter nihilism, which we have in our world today, in our culture today. Absolutely. And to see Luke go up against that, and it's not a two-dimensional villain by any means either, because, does the darkness consume the light, or does the light shine away the darkness? And people are on all the kind of different aspects of that question and conversation, and depending, and it's a really good exploration of that. And Luke just shining the light as Luke always does, finding the common ground with enemies. Not that every enemy can be saved, because no, there's elemental evil in this story that just needs to be conquered. Absolutely. But it's pure aspirational hero of Luke. You were saying to do a book study of it. I'd probably have to do a book study of it to be able to really tell you the specifics and some of the amazing tricks I think Matthew Stover's doing as a writer to really go through it all. I don't want to give that in just sort of a recommendation to you because I don't want to ruin it for you. But I'd love to do it. Maybe I'll do a book study by myself. See, Al can't do a book study with me if there's not an Audible as well, because Al, some of the medication he's on and whatnot, he likes to be able to have a book and open it, but he needs to hear it being read for him to really follow everything and pick it out. So we are going to do Dark Lord, The Rise of the Dark Lord, which has only recently been released as a non-abridged Audible version, so that Al can follow along with that. So we will do that coming up, I think, in April. But maybe I'll just do a book study of this by myself, because I would love to go through it on a more on a slower basis and pick out the things in it. But if you like aspirational heroes, read this if you haven't already. It's amazing. Matthew Stover's he's really kind of emerging as one of my favorite EU writers there. John Jackson Miller had just been knocking my socks off before, but Matthew Stover with Shatterpoint already. The Revenge of the Sith novelization, which I'm almost finished with, is just amazing. So I definitely recommend Star Wars Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor. People have been telling me for a while that I should read it. And this came out in 2008. So it's not like one of the early 90s EU books either, which is great. I mean, I love early 90s EU and stuff, or 90s EU, whatever. But this was, relatively late in the EU verse, chronology of things being written, but story-wise, it takes place, even before the Thrawn trilogy there. All right. I am starting to wear down here. Studio Super had a super chat here. I recently got the Danger Girl comics. Haven't read them yet, but looking at the art, my word, I wish J. Scott Campbell did more interior work, though I think he prefers doing cover art. Yeah, I think he makes more money cover art and doing collector's editions and stuff like that. But I love J. Scott Campbell's art, and in Danger Girl, I've never read Danger Girl. I'll have to pick that up. But I do like his artwork, definitely. Is he the writer of that too? I don't know. Zachary Brown, thank you for the super chat, said, would you consider Luke or Anakin the chosen one? Mind being a strange question, but I've always had conflicting feelings on the topic of who is the chosen one really is. I think it's kind of a matter of perspective, because I don't mind people calling Anakin the chosen one. Anakin did bring balance to the Force in that he bore Luke Skywalker. He had his children, but also it wasn't just that Luke, he was the father. He's not the father of the chosen one, and that Luke goes and does all the balance to the Force. No, it was Luke coming back to redeem Anakin at the end of the Return of the Jedi. Because it's Vader, it's Anakin himself who picks up the Emperor and throws him down the tunnel. Now, even though in the EU, there's reincarnations and so forth, I think that's still the pivotal moment in which balance begins to be restored in the universe. Is at that Battle of Endor. I would say that's the moment, of where it all starts. Even though there's lots of work to be done and there's back and forths to go through and whatnot. So I don't have a problem saying with people saying Anakin's the chosen one, but I also don't have a problem with people saying that Luke is the chosen one. I think I would argue with anybody who tried to say either one to the exclusion of the other, because I think you can't bring that balance without the other. It was Luke going back to redeem Anakin, and Anakin's ultimate decision in the end that made that brought that balance about. It's a good question though. It's a deep question. Some people would disagree with me that Return of the Jedi was the culminating moment of or the beginning of that restoration of balance, and you can have that conversation too. But yeah, Eldritch Fan says, compare Luke's brush with nihilism in Mindor with Anakin's fall in Return of the Revenge of the Sith novel. He prevails where Anakin fails. He redeems once again. Absolutely. It's it just solidifies Luke Skywalker as one of my favorite fictional characters ever. 100%. He's perfect. He is him and Superman and He-Man. These are like the holy trilogy of aspirational heroes. Throw in some G.I. Joe and Transformers in the mix or whatever. Do want to remind people that Sound Engraver is also going to be streaming tomorrow. She's missed a few weeks, so she's going to be streaming, or she missed last week, I think, after missing, I don't know. She will be streaming tomorrow. Yes. Luke is the extension of Anakin in that sense. Yep, I agree. Definitely. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. I've gone for my full hour. I am wiped. I am ready for introvert time. I'm ready for no talking to people time. So I'm going to wrap this up. I do have this super chat here closing out the things. Tom Spiegel said, Danger Girl is as fun as the Indiana Jones movie. A croc chomps down on a henchman, but instead of a generic scream, this henchman says, "Oh, me, you sucker." That's funny. Yeah, I don't know anything about Danger Girl. I don't know anything about the plot. I mean, I know the visuals. I've seen images, but I don't know the gist of it or anything like that. So yeah, I'll check it out. That sounds fun. All right. Well, that's it for tonight. I will be back next week. Hopefully I'll be back in the swing of things and ready to stream more on a weekly basis again. Just these 2 weeks were weird, but we'll be coming back for that. Another super chat though. It's from Xerinx. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It said, Luke goes into the belly of the whale to save his father. It's through the act that Anakin lives again, hence Anakin Force Ghost. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you can't have one without the other. I agree. I think we're on the same page there. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the True Blue stories you love. I'll be back with more reviews and recommendations and all of that.